Hello, you are tuning into Uneducated Guests with Josiah. I'm your host, Josiah. I'm a senior in high school that has to do a project for a senior class, or for a college class, but I didn't feel like looking anything up, so here I am. So, as you know, I started this podcast several weeks ago, and it was for my college class, obviously. Well, I am going to be joining the Air Force June 11th. I will be sent off to boot camp, so there's obviously that, but before that, I will be graduating May 18th, I believe. Yeah, May 18th is my graduation date, and I'm out of school May 9th. So the podcast is most likely going to be done after the 3rd, I believe. And this class is the last time I'll be in this class, I should say. And I'm not necessarily sure how I feel about that. Everything's just kind of happening really fast and surreal. But, I mean, it's just another walk in life. Everyone's got to go their own ways. So just enjoy these few episodes with me while I'm still here. I'd say I've got a few weeks left, 3, 4, 5 episodes if I'm lucky. So I'm here today to talk to you about old medicine, which is just generally a broad term I used to mean just ancient medicines, ancient practices, and stuff like that, which I feel like most of my episodes nowadays are just heavily into the research part of the portions, so they're not necessarily long on the knowledge part, like pre-knowledge before I actually look anything up parts. So I think we should get into it. So as we know, ancient tribal medicines and stuff like that heavily relied on flora, fauna, and essentially nature. But in most ancient and even some newer religions, or not religions, newer practices, religion was used heavily, because in the, I want to say, Middle Ages, like the Black Plague and all that stuff, they thought it was a punishment from God or something like that, I believe. But they basically viewed sicknesses as punishments from God, or like demons leaving your body. That's why there was also like a lot of ancient practices in the medieval, like bloodletting, which was a really bad one. I mean, actually, sometimes that actually did cure some things, but most things they used it for, it was very dangerous, very bad for them. And they thought it was like purging the toxins or demons, whatever. But then there's a lot of things that involved using different herbs, medicines, or not herbs. Like not medicines, but they used herbs and stuff like that to treat illnesses and medicines, which you still see that a lot today, but a lot of it does not work as effectively as modern medicine. Like, you'll see those anti-vaxxers and people like that are quote-unquote natural, or they don't take their kids to doctors. Like, I forgot what religion it is, but not Scientology, Christian Science. I think it's Christian Science, that religion. I'm gonna look this up, but I believe they don't believe in modern medicine, or they believe in it, but they won't subjugate their children to it because they feel like it's sacrilegious, which is okay. So something just happened. I know it's probably not gonna be in the outtakes, but it might be a little shocking or staticky, maybe. But my mic just kind of cut out for some reason. Not really sure why. So this episode's going to be kind of cut up now because I am not smart, and I think the mic cord got pulled or something. But that's besides the point. So I just got into why the Christian Science. So they think it's sacrilegious, I believe, to take their kid to basically doctors, hospitals, and basically get treated, because they think God's going to solve all their problems, basically. They believe that their God will protect them and cure any illnesses, which you see that a lot. Well, not that part specifically, but you see a lot of anti-vaxxers today and people that don't believe in modern medicine and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of memes and other things, but it's not something to really joke about. People are really that ignorant to not vaccinate their children, or basically just not vaccinate in general, which you've seen in the news lately, that there's several diseases that are coming back that we eradicated because people are not vaccinating their children, and it's causing outbreaks and the disease is starting to spread. And it's just so bad watching so many people die because their parents are ignorant and wouldn't vaccinate them. Like, here's the thing, right? If their parents didn't vaccinate the parents that aren't vaccinating their kids, right? They wouldn't be here to not vaccinate their kids in the first place. They do realize this, right? Like, they're like, vaccines cause autism and stuff like that. Would you rather have this is serious. Would you rather have an autistic child or a dead child? Because you're obviously showing which one you'd prefer, and it's sickening. And it's just really kind of messed up. But this isn't what this rant's about. This is just about the medicines people are refusing to use. But in ancient times, people would basically do not even ancient times. This was in like the 20s and 30s. We still didn't have we had like a concept of the human anatomy and human body, but over time, different civilizations basically just mapped out the human body in different ways. So they were slowly getting more advanced as the years go on, and they were able to do not really successful surgeries, but like most of the things they learned was from post-mortem people. They would take out organs, basically figure out where everything is. Like ancient Egypt, I believe, they did post-mortem. They would take out all the organs, put them in jars, so they would have them in the afterlife. It's just weird. But they didn't. So they had a very good concept of the human body, right? Except they didn't understand what the brain was for. They thought it was basically just something that was there. They thought all the main body's functions were controlled by the heart, I believe. So they would stick this spike-like tool through the nasal cavity and just liquefy the brain, which is kind of awesome. And then just pull it out as like a stringy goop, which that's just kind of interesting to me that they would do something like that. But basically, over the years, since our science has just gotten so much more advanced, since civilizations, from experiments, and there's this quote I actually really like: science cannot advance without heaps. And it was referring to dead lab monkeys. And that's really dark, but it just kind of cracks me up because it's true. You do need sacrifice to produce advancement. No matter what you're in, what advancements, what technologies you're in, everything needs sacrifice for order. And I think that's really interesting. But during the late 30s, 40s, 50s, all that era, they're focused on a lot of mental health and crazies. I shouldn't say crazy, that's bad. They focused on a lot of mental health aspects that they did not understand, but it did bring us to what we have today. But they had all kinds of what we view as barbaric instruments today, what they viewed as revolutionary, like electroshock therapy, lobotomies, all these procedures that were just kind of horrifying, just destroyed people. But it's just like, that's how science progresses. You cannot have a successful advancements without sacrifice. And it may seem like a dark thing to say. It may seem like that I'm pro-advocating all this destruction of people, the pain they went through, but I'm not necessarily. I'm not saying it was right, but I am saying it was necessary for the advancement of our technology and medicine. Like during World War II, the Nazis did a lot of barbaric experiments that are basically viewed as horrendous, awful. Like, I think there was one, the sleep deprivation program, to see how long humans could go without sleep, and it basically drove them insane. There was this other man, I'm not sure where this was, but he basically voluntarily I think he was dying of a terminal illness, there we go. And and basically offered his body up to science, but before he died, they cut off all of his senses. They took out his eyes. They did something with his ears and tongue and nose. I think they used chemicals. They put a spike through his spine so he could not feel. And the last thing he said before he died, I think, was that he sees God and he's gone, or he's afraid, or something similar to that. And it's just really dark like that, because without your senses, I believe the studies they did do was that you basically start hallucinating and going insane. We actually see this nowadays. There's this room, and it basically blocks out almost all sound. Like, you can hear your own heartbeat in it. You can hear your own breathing. It's just it's horrifyingly quiet, how quiet the room is. And if you stay in there long enough, you will start hearing things. You will start hallucinating and all that stuff. And I actually think that's what happened to the man. Since they cut off all of his senses after so long, it wasn't just like gone, it wasn't just like slowly deterioration, it was gone. So I think since he had no senses, he started maybe hallucinating in his own brain and basically just went insane. Which is a really hard thing to think about, but we learn all these things through destructive experiments. Like, we've learned how the human body works from the dead, mainly from the dead. We learned how the human body works from living test subjects. We learned how medicines works. We still do that today. They'll test new drugs on people. I think there was this experiment. I honestly don't remember when it happened. I want to say 2013, 2014, 2015 maybe, even. But they made male birth control, and it made all the subjects of it sterile, like, for life. Like, they were completely sterilized from the medicine. It was a big lawsuit. A big corporation was super upset. A lot of people were very upset by that. But now I think I read this somewhere, so don't quote me on this, but I believe we actually do have a functioning male birth control. It's like a pill. Like women's birth control. You gotta take it. I'm not sure what the doses are or anything, but I do believe I read somewhere that it is functioning. I'll look all that up after. But I just thought that was really interesting, how we went from sterilizing men to productively making a male birth control. And I believe that would have happened with women's birth control at some point in the past. I wouldn't doubt that some of it made them sterile or something like that. Like, it's all very plausible. It's all very capable of happening. And you just don't look at the dark side of history. Most people don't. And you'll just be like, oh yeah, all these scientific advancements. But people don't realize that they all come at some sort of cost. Like, all the dark parts of histories that didn't come up with advancements, how were they supposed to know that they weren't going to advance science or invent the cure for cancer or do something so significant, so groundbreaking, when they couldn't have known that they wouldn't have? So if it's the possibility that you are going to break through the field, sometimes destruction, change, and sacrifice is the only way to go. And I just think that's really just an interesting concept that people have come up with recently. Well, not people necessarily, just people always have thought this. just not a lot of people, or not a majority of people, that there's no advancements without heaps. Well, I will see you guys in the research portion of this. I'll see you guys this Friday, which would be let me check here, the 19th, I believe. So have a good weekend, day, whenever you're listening to this. I will see you guys next. Crap, I'm not ending this. Wow, I'm just completely spaced out. I will see you guys in a little bit. Elevator music, go. Hey guys, I'm back on this episode 18 about old medicine after I've done some research. And so I've just covered just a wide variety of different topics. Well, not necessarily wide, it's all in the same genre, it's just different time periods essentially. They understood, so this is about Egyptians. They understood, that's actually what most of this is about. They understood that disease could be treated by pharmaceuticals, recognized the healing potential in massage and aromas, had male and female doctors who specialized in certain specific areas, and understood the importance of cleanliness in treating patients. They understood that disease could be treated by pharmaceuticals, recognized the healing potential in I honestly just put that twice because I'm insane and can't do notes, apparently. In the modern day, it is recognized that disease and infection can be caused by germs, and one might think people have always believed so, but this is a relatively late innovation in human understanding. It was not until the 19th century CE that the germ theory of disease was confirmed by Louis Pasteur. Pasteur is the guy that pasteurized milk, and proven by the work of British surgeon Joseph Lister. Before either of them, the Hungarian physician Ignaz Semmelweis, 1818 to 1865 CE, offered the then outlandish proposal to the medical community that they could cut mortality rates in their practices simply by washing their hands. He was mocked by doctors who saw no reason to wash their hands before even the most invasive surgical procedures, and grew increasingly frustrated and bitter. Semmelweis was committed to a mental institution in 1865 CE, where he died, after being severely beaten by guards for suggesting a practice recognized as common sense today. The ancient Egyptians would have accepted Semmelweis' proposal without hesitation, not because they understood the concept of germs, but because they valued cleanliness. The mortality rate following medical procedures in ancient Egypt was probably less than of any European hospital in the Christian era until the mid-20th century CE, when that of any European hospital in the Christian personal cleanliness and the sterilization of instruments became common practice. Most medieval ideas about medicine were based on those of the ancient work, namely the work of Greek physicians Galen 129 to 216 CE and Hippocrates 460 to 370 BCE. Their ideas set out a theory of the human body relating to the four elements, earth, air, fire, and water, and to four bodily humors, blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Now, I'm no doctor, but yellow bile and black bile does not sound like it should come out of you, and it does not sound very healthy. It was believed that health could be maintained or restored by balancing the humors and by regulating air, diet, exercise, sleep, evacuation, and emotion. I'm not sure what evacuation is, but it's the actual wording on here, so I'm just going to say it probably means something about medicine, or maybe it's like using the bathroom or something. I mean, that would make sense, sort of. Doctors also often advised risky invasive procedures like bloodletting, which is what I mentioned in the thing, is that they cut you and you try to bleed out everything that's causing you harm, and it's just very bad. Medical knowledge derived from antique theory was largely confined to monasteries and the highly educated. For ordinary people, especially those outside towns, it would have been difficult to access professional practitioners those in need of medical assistance might instead turn to local people who had medical knowledge derived from folk traditions and practical experience. Through the Middle Ages, herbalism was preserved in the monasteries of Britain and mainland Europe. Before the establishment of universities in the 11th and 12th centuries, monasteries served as medical schools. Monks copied and translated many of the works of Hippocrates, Dioscorides, and Galen. Their physic gardens, well stocked with the most common and useful medicinal herbs, served as basic training grounds for the next generation of physicians, monks, and laymen alike. Meanwhile, as a result of the Islamic conquest of North Africa in the 7th and 8th centuries, Arabic scholars acquired many Greek and Roman medical texts. Iranian physician Ibn Sina, also known as Avicenna, 1980 to 1037 AD, combined the herbal traditions of Dioscorides and Galen with the ancient practices of his own people in the Canon of Medicine, Al-Qawanin fi at-Tib, one of the most influential medical texts ever written. Avicenna's canon spread through Europe during the 11th and 12th centuries. Shaman and pagan priests used a blend of rituals and medical techniques to cure ailments amongst the ritual and magic. They sometimes arrived at a cure that passed into oral tradition and memory. Herbs, acupuncture, and prayer were commonly used to heal. Due to the hot and dry climate in Egypt, ancient papyri have survived intact, allowing historians to study the sophisticated techniques employed by ancient Egyptian physicians. Whilst couched in magic and ritual, the Egyptians possessed a great deal of knowledge healing herbs and repairing physical injuries amongst the normal population and the workers responsible for building the great monuments of that nation. Modern research has shown that these builders were not slaves but highly respected and well-treated free men, and the treatment given for injuries and affliction was centuries ahead of its time. Early paid retirement in case of injury and sick leave were some of the far-sighted policies adopted by ancient Egyptian medicine, luxuries that would rarely be enjoyed by most workers until well into the 20th century. Okay, so I was also supposed to cover not necessarily older medicine. Well, I mean, it is older now. Like basically 1900s to 1980s medicine, essentially. But I kind of forgot. So we're just going to go with really old medicine, which is where I basically stopped at, is Egypt, medieval times, and that's basically all I covered. And some Muslim practices, and even older than that stuff, the pagan rituals and that kind of fun stuff. But that's all the time I have for the day. The links will be in the description if I remember to put them there this time. I'm human. I forget to do a lot of things. So I will see you guys next Friday, or whenever you're listening to this. Have a good day, week, night, whenever. I will see you guys next time. Peace out.